Show me. Tell me if anything ends up being like too loud or too quiet.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Smite 2 Dev Insight Show. My name's Isaiah, community lead here at Titan Forge Studios. I'm going to be your host today, and we're going to be going over a lot of stuff. We had a lot of feedback come in during our last closed alpha weekend playtest, and the team has been putting in a ton of work. So we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff here today, and here to break down a lot of the things that we're going through is Alex, our executive producer here at Titan Forge, and then design director AJ is joining me here as well. How are you all doing today?
Doing great. Yeah, excited to be here. Excited to be able to talk about how we're addressing all the feedback that we got from the community. And I just want to start by thanking the community for giving us the feedback. We've said publicly a lot of times, don't treat us with kid gloves. Yeah. Don't act like, oh, it's a beta, they'll get to it, right? You guys definitely took the kid gloves off this time, and you gave us some real
Don't treat us with kid gloves. They're
feedback.
Like, yo, Ajax, and, you suck!
It's hard as a dev team to oh my God, they hate it, for a day or two. But then it was cool. Now we have the information that we need to really, hit the ground running and to address the issues and make the game that we all want to play. So thank you all for the feedback. It's really been great getting the team rallied around addressing it over the past few days.
Absolutely. Well, this is going to be a Dev Insight show. It's going to be a little bit more casual, a little bit more conversational. We're going to be talking at a high level some of the biggest community topics and feedback that we got and how we're addressing them going into Closed Alpha 1. Now, this is not a full update show. I want to be clear before we get started and get everything going here. So we're going to have a full update show for Closed Alpha 1 in a couple weeks where we're going to be going over things like full God, item, and game mode balance. We're going to have the full Mordred kit reveal on that show in a couple weeks. I know people are really excited about that. And then we're also going to be going a little bit more in depth on some of the things like ranked and some other gameplay systems, as well as we'll have full patch notes on the website when that show goes live in a couple of weeks. But for today, we've got a lot of good stuff going over. So y'all just want to hop into it? I feel like we've got...
Yes, I'm going to go off script a little bit at the start.
Let's go off script.
I addressed one thing that I don't think we ever talked about from Alpha Weekend 4.
Yeah.
And that's that servers kind of sucked at the start of it.
That is true, yeah.
So what we learned at the beginning through looking at some data there is that we were using a group of servers that didn't have fast enough hard drives to be able to run the Smite 2 server. And that was causing really degraded performance. So starting around day 2 of the last alpha, you notice the performance got a lot
looks fine
better.
for me.
That's because we got all of those slow hard drive servers out of the rotation, and we aren't going to be bringing that level of server back into the rotation going forward. So you shouldn't see that issue anymore. We will also, for this next test, we're going to be testing a couple different server regions. So again, we're just trying to make sure that we get the best experience possible, but you may find that you have slightly different ping from match to match because we're going to be testing a couple different regions to see what works best for everybody. But with that little off script out of the way, we can get to what we actually want to talk about. Sorry about that.
I'm super excited. I know the first topic that we're going to cover today has been a big topic even since the initial alpha weekend, kind of on the forward-facing God selection side of things. Let's talk about how we are transitioning from 3D renders to card art coming back in Alpha Weekend 1.
Card art's back.
Yep,
I'm so excited. Yeah. So I think AJ will talk more about this, but initially when we were designing Smite 2, one of the things we were thinking was man, these models look so great. Let's try and use the models everywhere, right? And initially when we were designing the UI, we were like, oh, it'd be really cool if we could use the actual 3D models moving everywhere. And so we were kind of building towards that. But what we found is that performance-wise, that was just never going to work out in a way that felt good to players because it's going to take a long time to load screens. So then we went to these renders, which I think looked nice, but I don't think they gave the Smite feel that everybody wanted, right? So we've been taking this feedback that people want the card art back, and we've been talking about
I think you guys will be hyped about every single thing they talk about, okay?
Update it in a way
all the stuff we've been talking about, even small shit that we want.
So, I'll let AJ take the helm here. I'm talking too much. So,
I mean, the people have spoken. They wanted the cards, so the cards are coming back. we're going to be using the Smite 1 card art for the default cards as inspiration for most of the, ported Smite 1 gods. New gods like Hecate and Mordred will have to have all new cards. Those might not be ready for this patch because we're going to have to go out and make those.
They will not be ready for that.
They will not be ready. That's right. They will not be ready. But many of the gods will be ready, and they'll be using their Smite 1 card art. But we're going to do some touch-ups. Like, some of their default cards are very old. And might have some other issues with proportions or sizing, or also we changed models in a couple characters too. They have different clothing, different outfits, different shapes. So trying to make that accurate, we're going to do some touch-ups. The goal is to really keep it in the spirit. We're not completely reworking it. We know people love those arts for many reasons. So we have a demo here today to show you what Loki is going to look like in Smite 2 card arts. We can go ahead and throw that up on the screen to give an example. So here's the card art you're used to for Loki. It's nice art, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't look like Loki. Like, his face is purple, and his eyes are kind of like, it's almost like he's wearing a mask. It's like, it doesn't quite look like our Loki, even though it's a cool card. So then we're going to go ahead and toggle to the updated version that we plan to use as his default in Smite 2 that gets a lot more of Loki's personality coming through, his actual facial features looking accurate, some other corrections for lighting and directional reflections in other places on the card. But this is the level of change we're looking for. So we're not looking to change core poses or theme or style. It's just some touch-ups on the detail level. Like, a lot of them are face specific facial expression and facial features updates, but then some also have armor and weapon.
All these
updates
changes
to
are
match
fucking
Smite
great.
2 as well.
Everything.
So every god in Smite 2 will have these card arts.
Yeah, and I think, in the early days of Smite 2 development, we said it's going to be Smite, but strictly better. And I think that, maybe we went off the rails a little bit with the renders, but I think if you look at this, it's really hard to say this isn't what we did in Smite, but just strictly better. Right. It's, the level of detail, the polish is very good. Shout out to Stu and Jordan making this happen.
Yeah, we're going to do a lot of shout-outs today because everybody's been busting their asses on this patch. Like,
Absolutely.
for real. That's why we're here early to tell you about half of it or more, because there's so much in this one.
Yeah, and I think in terms of what to expect for this card art rollout,
Yeah, their art team is goated.
Because we are updating all of these and we want them to feel better, they will not all be in CA1. I think what we're currently targeting is about 6 gods that will have their updated card art for our first closed alpha test. And then hopefully CA2, maybe CA3, we'll get the rest of them over. And we'll just kind of roll through it, and you'll see it update over time. But we want to, we're committed to this direction. This is where we're going. It's just going to take us, a little bit of time to get there.
That's great. Thanks for clarifying.
Awesome. Well, the next one I'm super excited about because I know we had a lot of conversation on social media from content creators, ambassadors. Let's talk about how we're approaching the environment going into closed alpha 1.
Ooh.
And not just the environment, but the entire game's art style. As in a way, it even affects the core game.
Do you guys know how we were talking about the game doesn't look good? Like, it just doesn't look
here, and we're going to
good.
show you some before and afters here in just one second. But the main thing,
you understand what I mean?
First, so like, we've been really taking the feedback about the Smite 2 art style and what can we do to make it more our own, make it pop, make it feel like Smite. So we're going to have a lot of changes we're about to show. So number one goal, adjust core engine settings to remove
this is
that
probably one of the
default
biggest
Unreal
changes.
Engine feel, right? That was one thing we really tried to tackle hard. Next one was try to get to these more crisper, sharper images. Like, there's that part of that Unreal Engine feel is a lot of like hyper realism focus. You get a lot of camera blur, a lot of distance blur, stuff like that. Does not really fit to Smite's gameplay very well. The next one was to adjust the environment and the character models and lighting for more vibrant.
No, the
colors
issue for a
and
lot of
some
people was that it
stylized
looked
visuals. So
too
those are
realistic.
kind of the two really big goals.
It didn't
we're
look
gonna
like
just
Smite
show
anymore.
some before and after screenshots because I think those really.
It was dull
show
colors,
what
almost
we're
like
talking
trying to
about here.
look too real.
So
Look at this is what
the center, standing in the center of mid lane, looking at the order base, would look like in Alpha 4 update. So
this is what
take a second,
this is what you're used
absorb it
to.
in.
bring it in. I mean,
Let it simmer.
there's nothing.
This is what you're
immediately
used to.
offensive
This
about
isn't what
I
it's going to
think,
look
but
like.
it's
This
like
is what
we're
you're
thinking
used
about
to.
what can still be improved.
Let them show
and
what they
those
changed
things
it
I'm listing
to.
here. So now let's
Yeah, I think the thing
sorry.
that's most striking is just like the amount of brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of
This
brown
isn't
and
what it's going to
green
look
earth
like.
tones, just
No,
like
listen.
everywhere.
This
So now
is
let's
what
toggle
you're
to the
used to.
new in progress.
Wait.
Closed alpha version.
This isn't the change yet.
Here we go. So you have a completely reworked floor. You have a lot more vibrant greens in the grass and the trees and different greens that contrast each other, as well as the rocks. You've got sharper visuals. Like if you can, production, if you don't mind, like kind of toggling back and forth between them like every few seconds as we talk, like look in the distance as they toggle back and forth, and you'll see that a lot of the
This isn't really a good. This isn't the best example.
Even with that kind of fog,
this isn't the best example, but this looks a lot more like Smite 1 now.
The back
but
of his head, you can see some of that Unreal Engine.
But this isn't.
blur
There's too many
that's
browns.
there
It's
in
just
the
too
old version,
dull
and
on
the
this one.
Colors don't quite.
But let them show you
out,
like the
and then
jungle
into
and
the
shit.
new
This
version,
isn't
you
a
see
super
that,
good
like, that
example, but
green
this looks
really
better.
shines, and the lines and his
What up, Juice
silhouette
Man?
really sharp.
Inglorious.
Like, this is just what we've been able to do in a few weeks, and it's made a really big progress. So, we're going to look at a few more before and afters. We're going to show off even more of the map, but I just want to call out shout outs to all the art team and environment team that have been working so hard on this. And I want to also, like Alex mentioned with the rollout, I want to clarify that a little bit. So, we're looking to get these core visuals in the 24/7 patch. So that's sharpness, vibrance, color, definition, style is going to be there. But because we're doing such a large rework, it's going to mean that a couple things are going to be removed or have to be remade. So if you toggle back and forth between the old one again, you'll notice there's a lot more set dressing, as we would call it, like props on the trees and rocks, so those little plants.
Yeah, that stuff will all come back.
Those are all in progress and are going to come back.
Yeah, all of
but
like the
they're not in
details
this
are
image
going to
right
come
now.
back.
We want to just
But like this is the new art
clarify that
theme.
to know that's like a known issue. It's not that we intended to remove all that, but we're going to bring it back and we're going to apply the similar principles to it. Make sure it's
Again,
sharp
it's not
and clear
done
and vibrant, and make sure it's not noisy and overloaded or too monochromatic.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have a lot to build on after CA1 as well.
Yeah, and just to kind of say it once again, just to make sure, this is all still work in progress, right? So things that maybe don't look 100% finished, like some of the transitions between the grass and the ground, and the exact brightness level and all of that, right? We're still tuning.
They'll
a
talk
lot of
about
this
anything
stuff
they've
across
changed.
the map, and some parts of the map are more done than others. We think it's going to be in a good state to show the direction that we're going, and that feels good to play.
This
on
isn't
by the time
done,
we get
keep in
to
mind.
our closed alpha patch, but it's not done yet. We're still at alpha. We're going to keep working on it. It's gonna be
All right, so let's rotate through a few more sections of the map to show the
Xbox
before
Live,
and
thank you for
after.
the follow. Welcome to the stream.
This was the before for looking at the chaos side from the mid lane, and then a lot of brown again. And then here's the new looking
That's
at
so
the
much
chaos
better.
side of the mid lane. So things you'll notice is the reworked floor, the stone.
It just did.
versus
The first one
grass.
just
You'll see
didn't look
multiple
like
different shades
Smite.
of grass. You've got the orange, like auburn grass over in the jungle. And
Like I
the
said, you'll get
trees
better examples.
different color than they were before.
And the floors are still being worked
Now
on.
let's
Like
go-
like
yeah,
look
you
at
see
like
those
it's just
trees are kind of a
it's too
pale
dull.
brown, especially
It just like is all almost like one
You get
shade.
a lot
It's
more of
just
that
I don't
vibrant
know.
orange, and you get a lot more of that in the grass on the floor, and the contrast between order and chaos.
Yeah, I think really, it's not like I got lost on the Conquest map before, but I find myself getting lost a lot less.
Yes.
You know what part of the map you're in a lot more because of these little color hints that tell you what part of map you're on.
And now we're going to go into the jungle. We're going to see, I think, even more intensely compelling than what we've
The
seen
jungle is
before.
great.
So this is the previous jungle from Alpha 4. And then let's toggle to the new jungle.
There we
Look
go.
at those colors and that style, right? The grass. There's a lot of really cool tech going on this map that we're going to show off in more detail in the main patch notes show. But yeah, I think just the greens and the grass and the contrast with the rocks and the trees and the sky, everything just pops like so much more. And there's so much more clarity in the both distant and
See, that's just like dull.
close range.
You know what I
Like,
mean?
It was really surprising to me when we were
just
looking
really
through
dull.
those Unreal Engine settings and going through and doing another pass on them and finding just how much power we had over the visuals of the game.
We don't need Smite to look realistic.
then
It's a
finally, the last one to show
fantasy
is the
god
new
fighting game. We don't
and
need it to
old,
look
Chaos Jungle. This is probably
Call
the
of
single
Duty
biggest
looking,
improvement
right? We
on
don't
any
need
part
it
of
to
the map,
look
because the Chaos,
real. We need it
side
to look
really wasn't
cool.
super defined as Chaos. It was
It needs to
using
be
a lot of the same
aesthetically
assets. The trees
pleasing.
are really just a different color, but now it's got a completely new color palette, unique to itself, to define the Chaos side.
Yeah, you recognize immediately if you're on order or chaos, just based off of those.
I don't
those
really
deep
care for the
oranges.
colors, like it being.
So
It's very autumnal.
I don't care
Yeah.
for the
It's great.
Right.
autumn
So
looking
there's a
stuff
lot
to let you
going
know on
on
the case
still
side. I don't care for
between
that, but the new art style I
actual
like.
engine settings, the camera settings, the environment assets themselves, and the lighting. There's still a lot to be done. We're still working through a lot of parts of this map. Conquest map is not finished for CA1. We have a pretty good target, we think, for getting it.
But look at the
in a
tree
really
different.
good
Like
baseline
look how
spot
boring
across
that
the whole
color
map
is
for this 24/7 update. But then, like I said, a lot of the
comparatively.
we'll further continue to build on that, adding more vibrant and fantastical assets and objectives across the map. There's going to be gameplay changes to this map that we're not going to go over today, new objectives on the map. There was geometry changes, lanes adjusted, things like that, all based on community feedback that we're going to go through in the future. Last call out before we go to the next section is that we're going to apply similar methodology to Arena. And we're not going to show that today because it's still a little bit more work in progress than Conquest was, but we'll have that ready to demo for the main patch test. And this even affects, the way the characters present in other places, like in the front end and the client and things like that. And it really is making a big difference. So it's great. If we want to go to the in-game real quick, I'll walk around in the parts of the Conquest map that are looking okay.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
We can get a real look at it. So here we are in the gameplay of it, in real time.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I noticed the most is just the crispness of the game. Like everything just feels sharper. It's easier to read what's going on. I noticed it a lot when we were testing in Arena, which has, like you said, it's still a little more progress, but like you see team fights a lot more often in Arena, and it was a lot easier for me to follow what was going on and understand this person is exactly right here, because it didn't have this kind of blur to everything anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's so much cool stuff going here. I'll demo the grass real quick because it's just really cool.
I love how it just flows in the wind.
Like, but it also reacts to your targeters.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
it doesn't obscure your aim. And it's very stylized kind of grass instead of realistic, which we thought fit Smite really well and gave it a really unique feel. And it's like, this is just what we were able to do. Like, we really pivoted a lot based on community feedback. So we've been making a lot of these big changes really fast. So I'm just like really excited to see what we can continue to do with more time and energy continued to give to this. So
yeah, I think some people have been using the word like cartoony as part of a Smite style, and I don't think that cartoony is really the word that we're going for, but stylized is definitely core to what Smite 1 was, and I think something we needed to get more of into Smite 2. Initially our thoughts for Smite 2 was we're going to try and lean a little bit more on like the cinematic style of Smite, but it just didn't feel enough like Smite, and we hear you, and hopefully this feels a lot better.
And it supports the gameplay better too. It's just like this bit of style and vibrance just really does. And we're going to talk more about that in a later section. All right, I guess while we're on the topic, we can move on to the next section, which is closely related to a lot of this, which is performance.
Yes. Lots of work going into performance.
Alex, do you want to kick that off? Or
yeah, so I am not a technical person, but I will explain my best. So several of our engineers have been taking a really, really deep dive into performance, to the point where every playtest that we do, we are logging the performance of each tick of the game. So basically like each frame that it's drawing. And they're looking at each individual process that's running during each frame and what's slowing the game down. And it has made a very substantial difference. The other thing that we are doing now that we weren't doing in previous alphas, that we're still working on, it's not 100% there yet, is we are pre-caching some of the, basically like when FX and audio are called by the engine, they have to run through a conversion at runtime to make them usable by the engine. And now we're pre-caching that, so it doesn't need to do that during the game, so you should feel a lot less hitches. So generally,
making the game when
a lot smoother overall.
When everyone said it felt like you're in an Olarun ult, but just like very slightly delayed, and it just feels a little slow. Overall. That's what they've been working on.
Individual experience is going to be different.
You won't be able to feel that until you play it, but
PC setup is.
Or might give you a sub.
Some people have seen drastic changes. One of our artists, one of our concept artists who works remote, said that on his home PC, he went from, and I don't want to oversell this because this is his setup and I don't know what settings he was on, but he went from like 60 frames a second to like over 100 frames a second.
Right.
On my home PC, I run medium settings, and I have like a 5-year-old computer. I run medium settings at like 90 frames a second now. So it's still not perfect. We're still working on the optimizations. We still have a lot to do, but I think you should notice a lot of performance improvements which are really hard to talk about, and you just kind of have to feel.
Yeah.
So please let us know if the game is running better on your computer, or if you're seeing things that are causing performance issues, to let us know. I also want to shout out the environment art team, who have helped with the performance as well. Some of our performance issues previously were actually due to things in the environments. And they've done a
what's
lot
up,
of work in
Princess? How you
addition to these
doing?
art changes to do performance improvements. So it's really a lot better.
Yeah, well said. I mean, it's one of those things that it takes a lot of time and
Wobbly
effort
and
work
slow.
to
Yep, that's what they're talking
focus on
about right now.
performance and get it
Yeah.
done. And for a long time, our main goal was just adding content to the game and getting more playable characters, playable modes, etc. But now's the time. We really buckled down and dedicated a lot of engineering time and art time into getting that performance. Even designers, it was something we were able to do in all departments to improve that performance, and it's really paying off for us in our playtesting. We hope you see it too.
Yeah,
And if anything is giving you big hitches, report it, let us know. We'll tackle it for the next patch.
Every hour or two, there's a post in our Slack, which is like an internal messaging thing if you don't have Slack. It's like a screenshot of this, tick graph. That's like, this little thing is taking 3 milliseconds to run. Somebody needs to look at this. And we're like, oh God.
Unreal
getting
Insights,
into
for
the
those of you who are
crazy.
interested in the development process, Epic and the Unreal Engine have an Unreal Insights tool that you can use to look at this. It's really cool and really useful, and we've been using it a lot.
Cool. All right. Well, the next thing is kind of a larger subject. People were talking about it in chat when you kind of teased it a little bit, AJ.
Yeah, spoilers.
Item shop
Yeah.
kind of updates
Yeah.
and items in general.
I bought a whole bunch of tier 2s, which was
Yeah.
intentional. I'm not, I'm better at Smite than that. But all right, let's rattle off some of these exciting item store changes. All right, I'm just gonna let's go through them and then we'll look at them.
Cool.
We'll
Let's
just
do
talk
it.
about them real quick. But first, so we're adding the short description view mode in the item store. That's what you're used to, the default in Smite 1.
Smite 1
Adding
PC.
additional dividers between stat categories for better viewing. We'll show you that in a second. We're adding a lot of gameplay changes to the item store, so a lot of UI to support that. So starter items are returning with with upgrades. Consumables and wards are returning and will now function like Smite 1 consumables and wards. And active item slots are getting a pretty interesting change to their design. They're mostly going to work like how you're used to, but we're going to do a lot more interesting stuff on the HUD and the UI to better facilitate that. And as part of that, we will be capping the number of actives you can buy to 3 actives. So let's go in game and then let's look at some of these features.
Yeah, and if you could actually, can you make the item store small for 1 second? Because chat was talking about it already. I just
The
wanna
item
mention
store
it.
small?
Yeah, no, just close it. Sorry,
close it.
close it.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry. Another thing that you'll notice is that we continue to iterate the UI. I saw people talking about it in chat, so I just want to, and one of the things that this most recent pass is doing is it's changing the colors of all the health bars to be more readable, and it's reducing the amount of brightness overall in the UI. We thought it was so loud that it was kind of like overstimulating and clashing and making it harder to read the rest of the world as you were running around. So sorry,
Minion health bars are a good example there.
Yeah.
Minion health bars now like scale and fade out at a certain distance. You don't see a whole bunch of like infinite rectangles when you're looking down the lane. A lot of stuff went into it like that.
It really does make
team display up here got relocated to a position people are going to be more familiar with.
Yeah, sorry to call that out of order here, but just because we're looking at the UI in general and I see people mentioning it, I was like, might as well mention it.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't had chat up at all because I'm following notes, but I'm
you're
glad
driving.
someone is. Were they hyped about the environment?
They seem pretty hype.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
I would say.
good. Okay, good. I'm sad I missed the live chat, but I was actually having to pay more attention to the show
Gotta
because
watch
I'm in
the
the
vlog.
I'm in the pon seat today.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Oh my God, remember when you dressed me up like pon for a patch show?
Are they
in, like,
fixing the wards
April
yet?
Fools 2016 or something?
Consumables.
Okay, anyway, items. So
Items, yeah.
here's what what we mean by
Consumables
the
are
short
completely
description mode. So
different.
instead of just a huge field of grids, you now have the item with a little bit of text. that kind of
Yo, Isaac, thank you for the follow, brother.
As an active, or tells you like what basic stats it does, the things like that.
And it's worth calling out that this is the default view for PC. If you're playing on console, your default view is going to be the split item store like it is on
Right.
console currently with short descriptions. Or or with just the icons.
They're
So,
bringing back starter items,
split,
yeah,
consumables,
and then,
actives,
uh,
et cetera, et cetera.
Detail,
Yeah.
minimal.
Minimal, yeah. So and
A bit
notice
more
we
of the
have
things that
default
people liked
settings
about
for a lot of
Smite
these things
1.
now. What the default
As
does
we've
is it
tried
allows us
some
to
other
say,
things,
okay, we have a
they're
different
bringing to
default
Smite
setting
2.
for PC and we have a different default setting for console, without needing to have multiple different settings in our in the UI. So it was the quickest way to get this in, so it'll feel normal to people regardless of where you're playing.
Oh,
Right, so
gotcha.
consoles
I'm not
will
sure
default
yet.
to this view.
I can only say what I see because I can't break
Default to the
NDA.
other one. I guess I can just use the console one.
No, you can use the PC one. I'm sure most people watching the stream are
Okay,
probably PC
so we'll go
players.
back to
yeah, sorry.
center
Sorry to make you change it.
I honestly like centered. I never really used the short, the grid, like the little item grid only in Smite 1. I use this mode, but now I kind of like it in this view with the grid. So yeah, this is what we're talking about for item number 1, or for on the bullet point. Number 2 is these dividers. So previously these were like all, even in the grid, this was just like one big grid. It was like in order, but it didn't have these dividers like this, except for I think just tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. But now we have consumables, starters, tier 3 offensive, so you can see all the int and strength items. Then you can scroll through that and see the tier 3 defensive. So even if you like don't really have a filter going or you don't know what you want, you can see. And then hybrid, these have int or strength and protections or health. And then tier 2s, and then finally tier 1s at the bottom. You can also invert that. That was already a feature before, but
And one thing worth mentioning too.
There's a lot more stuff for
yet,
you guys to hear too.
At the top, we still have these role tabs. So, and these are custom for the god in that role. So if you want to play, I don't know who you're on right now. Are you on?
I'm on her.
If you want to play on her mid, these are items that you might want to build to play on her mid. So it's kind of like a recommended build for that role.
Right.
So if you're looking for a really simple way of figuring it out, and I believe that if you call a role, we're actually going to default you to.
That's not in.
Not in
this
yet.
patch.
Okay.
That'll be
Eventually we will
when
default you to the set.
Yeah, when we get to roll queue and things like that, we'll be working on stuff like that. But yeah, if you're playing a god in any role, these filters are really helpful to give you a much smaller list of items.
What did I
this
miss?
Is a more traditional basic
Complete
attack
new
focused
art
build.
style.
If you switch to jungle or mid for on her,
New
that's a
cards,
more traditional
starter
ability,
items are coming
like
back.
hunter build, like you would be
Wards
familiar
and
with Smite.
consumables are coming back. An active
Let's
slot
see,
is
going
coming
through the list.
back.
Okay, consumables.
let's
New way the item
Yeah, this is a
store
big one.
works.
So here
The
we go.
UI
We have consumables
updated.
now in the filter. You can now buy your wards and sentry wards. You will no longer get a free ward, and there will be no cooldowns on them. Potions work the same as they have been. We added Health Chalice, so solo laners. That was some big feedback for solo lane really wanting that. But yeah, these work like you'd expect in Smite 1. You can have
Are they gonna show
up
it?
to 2 vision wards and 1 sentry ward in your inventory at one time. They go into specific slots that are no longer getting mixed up with your item inventory. They have dedicated hotkeys to them. These are the exact same default hotkeys that you would use on PC or on Savage or Challenger on console. So your Relic, your Consumable 1 and Consumable 2 will all be exactly what you're used to based on Smite 1. We are keeping with the only one Relic. We'll talk about maybe that more in a little bit. But you'll pick your Relic at the start of the game. You can't sell it or change it or upgrade it. You'll pick your one Relic, but then when you load into the game, you can build through your build as you would be more familiar with in Smite 1, and you can build consumables as such.
It's always been only one
I don't
relic.
have starters on this list, but I might as well show it off right now too, and then we'll talk.
Smite 2
a
has
little bit more about
always
them in a
been
bit,
only
but
one
yeah,
relic.
Starters are back. One of the most exciting new features for starters is, might be see what's this little guy right here?
Oh yeah.
What's that?
Is
You
that-
now have a starter item slot.
We
It
have
no longer
7 slots.
disrupts your 6-item build. It is. We are now fully 7-slotted Smite 2 gods.
Yeah, and this is kind of like a best of both worlds, we think, because it still lets people have that choice at the beginning of the game, which can help gods excel in different roles than maybe they otherwise would. But you still have a lot of build diversity with where you go after that, and you can build in any direction. So we aren't taking away anything from your 6-slot build.
Starter
We're just
slot, yep.
adding another item on top of it.
Not taking away
So,
from the,
sorry, I
the
was just
builds you
cursing
have,
myself
just
'cause these
adding
got
a
out of order.
starter.
They were,
And it
by
also gives
role.
you something to
But,
buy
Chaos
end game
Row,
and
if you're
takes you
watching,
longer to get
double
through your
check this,
build.
'cause
Because
I
you know how
can't
you would
wait.
get
He's got shifted
you know how you
around.
would get
We
25
were doing
minutes
some
in
resorting in
and
the
you'd be
store
like,
to
I've already
use-
bought
items
both
are gonna be
3K
sorted by
pots. Like,
cost,
what do I do with my
ascending
fucking
cost.
gold? Right?
Support ones are cheaper.
That's gonna solve some of these
Right now,
problems.
there's 2 per
It's gonna help the
role,
early game.
and there is 1 upgrade per starter. Like, this is still 30 unique, complicated items that we made in a month. We were moving full
Cooking.
time, non-stop, 3+ designers working on this, and this is how many we could get in. So I know there was still some requests for more starter items or more upgrades. This was the literal most we could make, because we also made a shit ton of other items. We'll talk about that later though. Let's see. Consumable. I will go back over starters in a bit if we want to, but I want to talk about active items next.
This is a big one. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so with the return of the consumables, you now have a lot of hotkeys that are not freed up. So with active items, we wanted to find a right balance where you have a lot more skill expression, a lot more control, but we're not like digging into the absolute dregs of hotkeys where you're having to, buy a Naga, or like controller players are just not able to do it. So we're going to be capping to 3 active items. So when you browse an active item,
It makes
you now
sense
see
too.
you can own up to 3
Being able to
active
buy
items at
5
once.
active
When
items
you
was
buy
going
3
to
active
cause
items,
some.
you will no longer be able to buy any more active items. So we don't really let you make that mistake now. Once you bought it, you won't be. It'll be as if you couldn't afford it, or you don't have the right level or whatever. You just can't buy it. So I'm gonna go ahead and buy Bloodforge, and wait, where'd it go? Oh, it went to the wrong slot. Of course. Let's see if this works yet. I bought too many items. Okay, thank God, it's fixed. So when you buy a active item over here, it now puts an active ability on your ability section of your HUD, and you can really clearly see this is an active. This will help you remember. A lot of people are saying they just forget to use their actives. They want to move their HUD around, and maybe we have HUD editor coming soon. We had alternate HUDs, but like this is just a really clean way to do this. And if you buy 1 active item, that'll use the same hotkey as your second relic did on Savage, Challenger, or PC. Yep. So if you are working like this type of build with 2 consumables, a relic, and 1 active, and there's many builds like passive statted items have some stat benefits to them, so you don't necessarily want a ton of actives. This allows you to have like the same control scheme as Smite 1 if you want to, and gives you a lot more control in what type of.
It's basically just making it so you have 2 consumables. It's basically making it very similar to Smite 1. But in Smite 2, while keeping the Smite 2 store the same.
Most builds internally.
It's basically just bringing some of the stuff that people loved about Smite 1 and wanted in Smite 2 and combining the process. So some of the things you loved about Smite 1 are coming over to Smite 2 while still being different and whatnot.
Basically, we figured that there's 2 really good
you can still control it, yes.
There's 3 really good button mappings, and beyond that, it starts
you can
to
still
feel
control
bad.
it, yeah.
So none of these feel bad to hit on controller or on PC. So we are still implementing.
This is just a UI change and making it so you can only buy 3.
But we want
just
to
a
give
UI
you guys a look
change,
at this today,
just
and
so you
make
have
sure
a
that we're
better
on the right
idea.
track. So
I didn't have enough gold to buy the 3rd active anyway, so this is what you can see what it looks like if you had full 3 actives. Even though I did trigger a bug state. It's a known bug. It'll be fixed by the time. We're still really early out, by the way. We usually don't do the show this early for a new patch.
Yeah, we're like 2 weeks away from when we would normally do this.
But this is what it would look like if you had the 3 actives. I don't know why I'm running out of base. I'm not going to get enough gold in time. If you navigate to yet another active item. Oh, I don't have all 3 yet, but it'll turn red and tell you can't get it. Kind of like let's see, what level am I? Level 8. Okay. No, I can't really demo that right now, unfortunately. But there will be warnings, and it will prevent you from buying more actives. And you can reorder the items in your inventory to reorder the hotkeys that you want them to be on. Right. So if I like my Bloodforge on G, it's always on G. I can just move that like that. So that is the new active system.
Yeah. That's active system.
So we're gonna go like a little bit into some actual gameplay stuff here. We're not going to go into the full details of everything, but there's 2 big bullet points we want to touch on today that were community feedback driven and kind of high level. So first one was starters. So bringing back starters. Starters do have stats and costs, so the initial starting gold was bumped up a little bit. Your initial starting loadout, you can still buy like a starter, a tier 1, and some potions, or like a starter and a chalice, like a lot of similar combinations you're used to. But I think you have a lot of possible interesting combinations in Smite 2 because there's some tier 2s you can now afford, I think, which is interesting. They're really strong, and you can come back and build a starter, later if you don't need one. Starters also, the upgrades have level requirements. So supports are level 15 and are cheaper, whereas every other role is level 20 and more expensive. This one's cheaper, looks cheaper because I already own it. So 2150 plus level 20 for non-supports, level 15
almost just they had no base
stats. So not going to get into the details of all of these today, but most of them are, direct designs.
Yeah, if they were
Smite
free,
1.
then they shouldn't have anything similar to recipes.
I like selflessness.
Selflessness is just like mini heroism. It's just a direct upgrade, like mini baby version. It's it's Pichu,
little baby heroism.
Pikachu of heroism. We didn't want to bring back Sentinels here because we're avoiding AOE protections auras. So we didn't want an item that was like the starter is kind of defined by that. But yeah, a couple of other things you'll notice, some things like that. You'll notice some new things, but the starters are mostly what you're used to. There's 2 per roll, so there's pretty good choice opportunities for every role, and you can build them in any role you want. So if you want to go Warrior, Zax, support, kill lane in duo, you can totally do that. You don't have to build Warflag or Selflessness. So you can just go for that burst damage. You can build Bluestone.
I really
on
like the idea of
like, there's a lot of
making
cool
starters to where,
Yeah,
like,
we're still
right
benefiting
now,
from our
if
more
you go
wide-open building
support and
in
you're
Smite 2,
not building
but we're just now incorporating
a support starter,
starters into
you
that.
just
So
lose.
it's
you
been
fall
pretty neat to see what people have done
way
custom
far
so far.
behind.
Yeah, we'll talk
Going
about
away
that
from
in more
that
in a
is
bit.
much
All
better.
right, so the next
much
big
better.
thing, high level from feedback, is the total item pool. So there was 2 things kind of about this. Number one is there was a lot of Smite 2 items that ended up just being really close to Smite 1 items. And that was kind of confusing to people and wasn't really, like, the newness wasn't really a benefit. The new name and new art really wasn't doing much for us. And the other one was just, like, a lot of bread and butter comfort items that people loved from Smite 1 were just not in the game.
Yeah.
So we ported over 20 of the most popular Tier 3 items of Smite 1 into Smite 2, all between Alpha 4 and this patch.
Yes.
So we made 20 plus Tier 3 items, 20 starter items, no, 10 starter items, and 10 starter upgrades. So this Smite 2 Alpha 4 versus Smite 24/7 has plus 40 items in the total item pool.
It's a big change.
Not to mention all of the reworks, or like in-place reworks due to naming conventions and confusions and stuff like that. So I'm just going to read off this list really quick for what's going to be in Smite 1. Crusher, Serrated Edge, Devourer's Gauntlet, Transcendence, Heartseeker, Book of Thoth, Spear of Desolation, Soul Gem, Doom Orb, Spirit Robe, Glorious Pridwin, Prophetic Cloak, Shifter Shield, Shield of the Phoenix, Voidstone.
I'm
Void
telling
Shield,
you, they've been
Berserker
working
Shield,
like
Mystical Mail,
overtime,
Rod
like
of Tahuti,
day and
Genji's
night.
Guard,
Like we've been
Gauntlet
talking
of
with them at
Thieves,
2 a.m.
and
We've been
Chalice
talking with
of
them at
Fury.
9
Yeah.
a.m.
And
Genuinely.
I think what we've noticed internally since getting these items,
They've been
back
there like
is that,
24/7,
it's
no joke.
made some people that don't play as often, but maybe played a lot of Smite 1, more able to explore the item system and feel a little more comfortable with it, because it's like, okay, well, I know that this item is good on this character. I can build that. And then, oh, maybe I branch out and I try something new, but I'm not just completely screwing myself by building items that I shouldn't be building at all. It gives you a couple safe like waypoints in your build where you know a direction. And it's really made it a lot easier for people to understand and get with.
The familiarity goes a long way for people who are just, hopping into Smite 2, maybe have had a chance to dig into the item store really, really deeply, but this new change allows people coming over from Smite 1 that are familiar with those items to hop into Smite 2 and immediately get a sense of, oh, okay, I know what this item does. I like this item. I'm going to build it.
We've also redone every starter or every auto build to include starters. You will still have to pick your relic. So when you load into a match, you'll pick your auto build or manual build, and you'll pick a relic.
Oh, we haven't talked about what relics we have. Is that later, or is that?
I have that in.
It's next.
It's the next.
Okay,
bullet
sorry.
point. Yeah.
I'm
no, you're
jumping
perfect segue. We have the relics in the shop just as a way to view them, and in case you click the undo button too much at the start of the game, you can buy them back this way. But we have added 2 more relics as far as we're adding a bunch of fan favorites to the game. You can still only have 1 relic, but we're adding a few more. Phantom Shell was brought in because people were saying supports really wish they had a relic they could choose at the beginning of the game if they really want to hyper focus on not getting killed or letting their teammate get killed, because like just having Blink or Beads or Sunder, like all very aggressive, or like Blink is just you can evade. You didn't really have a way of, like, if your carry is a little new and you just want something extra to bail them out, you didn't really have an option at level 1. So that's Phantom Shell.
Yes,
and then of
that
course,
is very
Aegis,
good to see in
in a
Glorious.
similar regard, if you just want
100%.
to
Huge.
hard counter some high DPS character,
Huge.
you can now start with Aegis. And we went ahead and just went right to the highest level of upgrades, these Aegis of Acceleration, Phantom Shell. Oh no, the Winions are starting to get into the base.
Uh-oh.
It's okay, this section is almost done.
So I think one thing
Aegis
that's
is
really
back,
important
chat.
to mention about bringing back Aegis and
Yep,
and
I agree.
bringing,
I agree.
these
The
more
old
relics
system
here
is just better.
is
Yep.
that no matter what, you're only going to have 1 relic in the game, right? So if you pick Aegis, that means you're not getting combat blink, which everybody knows is super OP.
beads. Yeah.
Or beads, which sometimes you just need beads in a match. Or you're not getting shell, which shell can be really useful. Like, you are giving up something really strong to get Aegis, and you're probably hurting yourself in some other ways, right? So Aegis is something that we wanted to bring into the game mainly because there are certain gods that have like almost like execute type abilities that you can't counter in another way easily. And it felt important for that type of gameplay but you are not going to pick it every game. People are not going to have beads and Aegis every game. You're going to have beads or Aegis or Blink, or it's one of them. So it really changes the power level of these and the decisions that you're making. So you're not going to run into a lot of Aegis. You're not going to run it. It's there more for like niche situations.
Yeah. And we have a lot of really interesting balance knobs for like, we have the blood shields as we call them. So you can get like a personal shell and purification beads, but you can't get Aegis. And there's a big trade-off there. You can get the AoE beads if you don't pick your beads relic, but that's a like pure health
item. Yeah,
it's a pure health item too. It's like kind of a tank item. So it's like there are some interesting trade-offs there, and we really specifically discussed with our pro player ambassadors and our pro level employees about what combinations felt good to allow like have active items as a fallback relic, or some we just didn't want. Like we didn't want you being able to get active Aegis and relic Aegis, like double Aegising. We just didn't want that, right? So. Yeah. All right. Last thing about item building is what we're calling the simplified component system. So we're still building in the component system like in Smite 2, where when you build an item, it's going to come up from components that fuse together as opposed to the linear upgrade tree. But we've reworked every single item in the game to have a lot more clean upgrade paths. So what we've done is that every upgrade is either 2 components or just 1 component in gold. There's no more 3 components. There's no more tier 1s jumping right to tier 3s. It's all much more direct. And in most cases, you can still, if you just want to browse the tier 3s and double click stuff, that will work for you and won't really change much. It won't mess up your inventory as much as it did before. We're also making the tier 2 to tier 3 upgrades a lot more meaningful. So if you own both of these items, it's still 850 gold to upgrade, and that's on the cheap side. Some of them are much more expensive. In the previous versions of Smite 2, owning both of the tier 2 items was getting you like 95% of the way there. Maybe it was just a little bit of gold more to buy, which really didn't make it feel like you got any power spike. It wasn't really noticeably different. It didn't really feel like, it felt like you might as well sit in base and wait for it to upgrade it, because you're just like, I might as well do it, it's so cheap. Or when you do finally save up for it, you don't get anything. So it just didn't feel as good. So we rebalanced everything to make the tier 2 to tier 3 jump much bigger. We reworked everything to only use round numbers. So, for the most part, some low tier items are for stats like mana regen. That's actually mana per second, not 5 seconds. So things like that are some that we couldn't do. But for the most part, everything uses more clean numbers you're used to in both cost and stats.
Yeah, this is one of those things that you appreciate more when you actually experiment with it. But you have so many.
Die again.
Yeah, you have so many fewer items that clog up your inventory. It's so much easier to navigate through the trees and understand where it goes. And again, this is like work in progress, right? We have a lot of ideas for how to improve that item tree view and make it even easier to understand going forward. And in the next update, we'll have even more.
Yeah,
but this is where we were able to get to for this update, and we think it's a great improvement and it's a lot better. Please let us know when you play with it. Like, is this feeling better? Is this more on the right track? Because we don't want building to be overwhelming. It's a core part of Smite. It needs to be accessible, but we want it to have a little bit more depth and a little bit more interest to people that want to go that extra step and really try and min-max it.
There's a lot of balance benefits to using the component system too, where we can keep stats at a consistent value across items instead of Smite 1, where just like one power tree, physical power tree, had wildly different cost per power than other power tree, and it was just like, there's some weird balance things that this system does better. So you'll also notice, like when you click on, if I'm clicking on a tier 1 here, I only can see the tier 2s it builds into instead of a bunch of like additional nonsense.
I can't see right now. We're in a different view.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize the top.
Yo, Inglorious. Technically, there's almost 6,500 viewers because Smite game is in the Smite 2 category.
You can see the tier 3s it builds
so
into.
Technically, it's like 5,500 plus another 1,300. Technically, we're almost at like 7,000 viewers right now because Smite is in the Smite 2 category.
We talked about the HUD. We have another HUD feature we want to talk about. Oh, I lost. Or I won. My Winions won. I was so busy defending my action.
Can you bring us back to cameras, please?
My Winions won.
Thank you.
Oh, good call. Thank you, Isaiah.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
We do want to show off a new screen. Let me get back in the game real quick. It'll only take a second.
Hop in a jungle practice or something,
Oh, Conquest is so pretty now, though.
That's true, yeah.
Jungle practice looked good this morning when I was running around.
Jungle practice has had a lot of updates too. We got to save some things for the main.
That's true. Yeah, we can't spoil everything.
But this next one is one more UI feature, and then we're going to talk about some God features, and then we'll talk about a system, and then that'll be it for today. But all these were the major features that we like.
It's what we took away from your feedback after the last alpha test, right? And you know, if we missed something major, let us know. But you know, this was what we were able to get done based on the feedback that we heard from the last alpha test, and we're going to take your feedback from the next alpha test, and we're going to keep working on making it better from there. So,
okay, I'm almost loaded. Not yet. Camera. Okay, camera can come in. Just because we didn't see this before, you know, so you pick your auto build, critical, you know, for a hunter, critical strike or penetration build, choose manual, and then here's your relic choices. You can pick whichever one you want. I like choosing combat blink for testing because I often like the movement. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is the abilities screen. A lot of people wanting a way to see all your abilities at a glance really quickly. You can also use this to level up while holding the button or going through a console flow that people are used to in Smite 1 that'll behave very much like it. But now you can see the whole kit at one quick glance at a press of a button.
Yeah, and we still have some polish to do on this screen, but we think it's you know, it's a nice way to see all of your.
I don't know if they'll talk about that.
Quickly.
They might not talk about that until the next one.
You can also, as AJ said, you can level up from the screen.
They have already confirmed that there will be ranked.
And then push 1, you can level up your.
And matchmaking should be better now that Arena is in the game.
Or it's whatever.
Arena should take those people that just F6 or just dodge or just leave games because they're losing. Those casual players have somewhere else to go now, which is good. And there should be ranked and there should be progression for the 24.
The other thing is
7 test.
Oh, you can see a little hint of it.
So if you're in ranked, you should for sure start getting better
at
games, right?
Like how the ability to upgrade.
If that's what you're looking for, like some high level Smite 2 games. Ranked should solve that.
Yeah, and you know, the F1, F2, F3, F4.
And casuals should be solved by people having somewhere to go like Arena if they don't play Conquest.
To obscure your view or anything, this is just supposed to be a clear way of like, I see the thing, I push the button that does the thing, I get the thing upgraded. So. Other thing that we will have in this build is you will be able to change your cast type by per ability, but it's going to be in the settings screen here, and it is it's not saved per god.
This is an account-wide setting.
This is an account-wide setting at the moment. So we just wanted to make sure that we had this in there because we got a lot of feedback about it. But it's, you know, we will eventually have it in on a per god setting, but this was just because we wanted to make sure that we had some ability to do this in for the next test.
We also have the double tap to fire, big community feedback.
Yes, and a lot of people.
Double tap to fire will now be disabled by default. You'll have to come in here and enable it.
Well,
like double tap to fire, right?
With default, it's enabled by default.
Yep, I know, Tony. Yeah, that was the main concern.
Because it is default on console.
Right.
That's why I wasn't streaming it sometimes.
So
it just wasn't good content.
And
Arena was better content than Conquest because people don't quit out of Arena.
To what we're talking about. Okay, let's move on to gods.
Yeah, that was a lot of item changes. Go for some gods.
I don't think we'll be able to see much in the game at this point. You can probably come back to the face cams for this section, but two big features for gods that we're going to talk about today. The first one is about the actual design of the gods and how they play and how they function. The other one is just polish and feel. So let's talk about the game design first. So all gods in Smite 2 will only deal one damage type. So they only deal one damage type in Smite 2. We're going to change that. There are more mixed damage types. So Anubis AO2 Mummy used to deal physical damage. That will no longer be the case. It will. Each god will have the consistent damage output. So you can still look at Neith and go, oh, that's a physical god. If Neith is building int ability Neith or ADC strength Neith, either way, you know that's a physical god. You know to build physical protections. You know how to counter that god, and you can recognize that much more easily based on what you're used to from Smite 1. So that's the first change. That'll affect any god that had mixed damage outputs.
Yeah, but just to be clear, you still will be able to build strength or int for different scalings. Yes. So the building still has that element. It's just it'll be more easy to understand what type of damage a god is going to do.
You can still go an int or a strength build in scaling.
Can still build any item.
But it will only be doing all physical damage on a physical character and all magical. That won't be mixed.
Physical damage. But if you want to build Chronos Pendant for like some crazy cooldown build,
there is still int builds and strength builds and hybrid builds.
Split into 3
but their damage of that character will only be magical or only physical.
100% int scaling or hybrid gods that could have int and strength scaling. So most of this is not going to change. Gods like Chalk can build int or strength to scale their ability damage, but gods like On Her are going to be 100% strength. God Anubis is now just going to be 100% int. There's no more build a little strength to mess with a hard-hitting Mummify. That's not a thing anymore. The only exception to that is everyone still has the same basic attack rules. So you can still
100%
build
strength,
strength
20%
on any int god and try to build like a meme ADC build. You can't do the inverse, right? Strength gods don't have any use for int. So you'll have to look at each god, and
they're about to
on
talk
getting
about that,
some more clear labels
Steelix.
about who's intended
I
to be
assume
only
they're
strength,
about to talk
only
about that
int,
exact
or
thing
who's
about
higher.
penetration.
Tanks are going to get a bunch of unique protection scaling abilities on their abilities. So we're going to be adding to all of the tank characters. They'll be able to get some sort of improved utility effect, potentially a damage effect, or other effects in their kit from building more protections. They'll actually see new things scale up, and that's going to be really unique. And then to facilitate item building and making it really smooth for all these changes, we're going to be merging physical and magical penetration into just one stat, penetration. So now we don't need to have like an int physical pen and an int magical pen in every combination, which was just getting like nonsensical or really limiting to certain builds. So every item will just give you penetration.
It's
and
just
you can
pen.
build that
Like
in
you
any
don't
combination of strength
you
and
don't
int
build an
very
intelligence
easily, and you
neath
would have
build,
seen
but then
that
grab
in
physical
the store
pen.
while
It
I was
doesn't,
playing
because
earlier. If you go
physical
back
and
and look, you'll notice
intelligence
there was
don't
just
sound
one
like they go together.
penetration
Now
filter
it's
in every
just pen.
strength or int pen. So you can
It's
double
just
filter
pen
to
now.
just filter to int plus pen or strength plus pen, depending on what you need. Or if you're a hybrid god, you can build one of each. Like Neath mid might actually want builds like that.
Yeah, I think it's really good because it keeps a lot of what we liked about the old system. It just makes it easier to understand, and it also makes tanking work better in the game, from my experience so far. In that it's easier to predict what kind of defenses, what kind of protections you're going to need, and it's easier to understand like how much pen people have and all that. So,
all right. So next thing is God Polish. It's going to be harder to show off anything like this today because it's really like
Yes,
you
it's
won't
just
notice
less.
it
It's
until
less
you really
confusing.
have
Yes.
the character in your hands and are playing on your home setup. But we're taking the feedback about how a god feels and plays and what's wrong with them from Smite 1 to Smite 2 really seriously. So we're going to use Susano as an example here. I'm just going to rattle off some of the things we've done to Susano since his feedback in Alpha 4. Basic attacks, adjusted the post-fire time of hit number 3 to match Smite 1. Ability 1 now has a shorter pre-fire time to better match the animation. Ability 1 now has adjusted animation blend that will make the animation better fit the timing.
You can build intelligence or strength.
Targets.
And
A1 is now
auto
a
attack
true
characters
sweep
are always
attack.
going to be
It was
strength
just a,
intensive.
instant
Ability
attack.
characters are always
It
going to be
will
int
update the hit
intensive.
area
Is
to
pretty
be
much,
more
and it will
correct
tell
highlight
you
targets correct.
what your power
Updated
scales
the
with, whether it's
radius
intelligence
by
or strength.
0.5 meters to make it more accurate to Smite 1. Updated the animations to now have no blend time, so they really snap really closely together in the combo for Susano. Like some animations we want to blend out to idle, but these ones are fired really rapid succession or you're in-hand canceling between, so we remove that. Ability 2, we updated the cone size to better match Smite 1. We no, wait, I lied here. Bon, I should have fixed your notes more before I read this, but so scratch that one. We updated the blend time on this ability as well. We added the Susano's ability 2 is not an instant cone. It actually has a travel time from closest to farthest, which is really important for when there's multiple enemies in the area and ordering them up so they go to the right place. We reworked and fixed all that.
Someone help.
We removed blends on knocked up characters who were pulled because they would do some weird visuals, so that will feel snappier. We updated the actual fire time of this ability as well, and visual effects and sound effects were all updated to better match the ability. Ability 3, we updated the projectile size to better match Smite 1, and Ability 4, we better updated the size to match Smite 1. And we're doing that type of list on every god.
Yeah,
every god in the game.
Every god will have
to
this
make it
level of
feel
changes
better, to make it
heading
feel
into
like
this
it's
first
supposed
closed
to.
alpha test, right?
Yes,
I
bigger
think the
tornado.
lesson that we took away from the most recent closed alpha test was that we needed to be sure that we were closer to 1-to-1 on some of these field things from Smite 1 to Smite 2. Where we hadn't previously gotten
The
as much
feel
of
of the
feedback.
god,
So
while
we're
it still
gonna be going
looks
back
better
through
and sounds better,
hitting
is going to
them kind of
feel
rolling wave, kind of like we were talking
less
about the card art
slow.
before. So you're going to see some of these gods get
That's all I can say,
changes
less
this
slow,
time,
or
some
less
that we haven't gotten to yet.
clunky,
We'll get it next
I don't
time. But we want to make sure every god feels as close to Smite 1 as we can make them.
All right.
I mean, but better, right? Not just like a copy of Smite 1. We want to make sure it's not worse than the Smite 1 feel. Right. And in some ways, they are in certain ways worse than Smite 1 feels. We're addressing that.
Sorry, production team. Yeah, we want to make them feel, all of the parts that you love about Smite 1 feel as good or better, plus all of the new plus ones in the kit, right? So if we want to hop in Gamer Home, show you a few things for our next 2 items. So the next 2 items in our note is a visual effects clarity pass and impact pass, and an audio clarity pass and theming pass, I would say. So this is not done for all the gods either, but is in progress. Ymir is one of the ones who's most furthest along. So his abilities, we don't have a before and after to show you here, but all of his effects have been updated since Alpha 4, specifically to make them easier to see in a combat sense. So there was just maybe a bit too much going on, some really bright colors, hard contrasts, things that maybe work well in a more cinematic situation. But if we're trying to battleground of the gods here, we need to know what's going on better. And this also helps performance by doing a very tight look at these and keeping the parts we need the most. So Ymir and every other god will be getting a full audit.
So they're doing a good mix between making things look cool, but also not too bright and too impactful to where it's hard to tell what abilities are being thrown, if that makes sense.
Or timings, or just overly artistic elements that weren't contributing to the clarity. All of those things are getting a second pass on them, and it's going really well, and they're looking really good.
So they still look better, but they just might not be as bright and loud, I guess.
Just a lot of
the visuals might not be as loud, so that way when there's a lot of stuff going on, you can clearly tell like what abilities are hitting, what abilities are at what spots, etc., etc.
Span of a fight with a lot of other side effects, it was
less distracting. Yeah.
At you, you know.
Yep.
And so we took that feedback and we went back, and it still has a lot of the same feel, but it's just going to read a lot better in combat and not be so overwhelming on things that don't need to be overwhelming. But if you do like the Frost Breath again, you'll see that like the Frost Breath has a bright like glow to it when it happens, because that's something that you need to be warned about, right? When you do the Glacial Strike, there's a glow to the roll that's brighter, because that's the part that like you're warning about, because this thing is coming, right? The effects just read better in terms of understanding the combat.
Well, also just being on the ground and being a little bit paler is going to help you see anything on top of it, where if that was really bright, you would lose other things going over it. So things like that, and it's making a big difference.
It really is. And it's making a game is a million little things, right? And this is one of those little things that's going to make a big difference.
Yeah. So shout outs to the whole art team who's taken this time and effort to go through this. It's like, and shout out to the community who are enjoying this entire ride through an alpha of a game.
Absolutely.
So the last thing on our list here before we show off one new big feature is the audio. Oh no, we have 2 more things, but audio clarity is going to have a similar thing. So some of the sounds that people know and love from Smite 1 will be brought back into Smite 2. So like On Her's Javelin Impale Throw is gonna be the Smite 1 sound. There's been just a lot of back and forth and confusion and a lot of negative feedback about things changing too much in that regard. So we're doing a lot of those, just bringing back the sounds that you know and love, and the ones that are most important to the kits. We're also
just keep them the same. The audio is fine. Just make it sound a little better.
Some of the hidden rules around the audio for the characters that really contribute a lot to making the characters feel good.
Like Thanatos 1. Thanatos 1 sounds like a fucking
audio versus hit.
Somebody throwing a steak knife.
It sounds like in this current build, I can't really hear much, so sorry, I can't really demo this very well right now. But like Smite 2
sounds like you're throwing a kitchen knife against the fucking garage. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. And that made it really hard to tell when you were hitting something, because you couldn't hear the hit sound, which needs to play over the swing sound, and it made the characters just really noisy, just kind of moving around. So like rebalancing a lot of things like that to make the game just sound better. A lot of work going into that. Yeah. Anything to add? We're going long today. We still got one big feature to get to too.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I'd say is like the another area of audio that we didn't really talk about is when somebody dies.
Oh yeah.
We were missing a lot of the audio feedback that you get in Smite 1 when somebody dies. And that was that
gold explosion.
The gold explosion, the ka-chunk
that
sound,
was missing.
The enemy has been slain. All of that was missing from the most recent couple alpha builds. So we think that
you remember how like it just felt soulless. You just didn't have like you didn't have an audio message play like when they died. You didn't have like an audio sound play when the god died. They just kind of dissipated and disappeared.
Combat. So we're hoping that with that in,
so that's and the gold sound of you getting the gold ching or whatever at the end of at killing them, like that's back too.
Out effects when you kill somebody. Yeah, you see they have that upward burst now too. That helps make it more clear when somebody's died. We still really like these like effects on somebody dying rather than the animations, because those animations were so different from God to God that those were actually really hard to read unless you've played 8,000 hours of Smite.
Lingered forever.
And they lingered forever. So we think that this is actually the right direction
this is better.
for Smite 2. We just need to make it work.
I didn't care about Loki like
a lot of work on
falling
this,
into the
I
ground and
think,
doing something. While it was cool,
I think
it's not
reading a lot
needed.
better. So
I don't.
we'd
They
love
don't.
your
They don't need
feedback
to
when
put
you guys
time on
play. Hopefully it feels better.
All right, the last little thing on the list, not little, it's going to be a little bullet point, but I don't want to undersell the amount of technical work that went into it. So shout out to Chaos and team for minion knockback AI and grouping, just a full pass on minions to make sure they behave and feel more
Okay,
like
so minion,
Smite
you know
1,
how when you would like throw a chalk axe
been
on a
iterated
wave,
for
or you
years
would
and years and something like
throw
that,
your
but,
3 on the
players
wave,
obviously
it would
were
like
really I went to
bounce
enemies
the
on
minions
this,
away.
I'm okay. But yeah, just really making sure my powerbacks feel like more like what you're used to.
Yep.
Oh man, I just one-shot that whole wave. Okay, so my power scaling is a little off here in jungle practice, but yeah, big change. A lot of the like players, especially solo laners, were like really feeling this. It matters a lot into the solo lane at a competitive level. So
minions aren't going to like get knocked away as
easily
easily, unless it's an ability intended to knock. Like if you on her jump on them, obviously they're going to scatter.
I think
but
it's just minions should behave much more predictably and not just I hit it and he goes back too far, or the wave unclumps, or he gets distracted and starts attacking this other thing that he wouldn't have in Smite 1, and now all of those little things are just so much better. It feels so much more natural to clear a wave, and it really is a big feels
one of the big things, and I believe we have a short video for tomorrow, but like characters with leaps, before there was an issue where minions would just run away from you whenever you go in the air, and it'd make it hard to clear it. And that's being reverted to
AI issue,
more like Smite 1, to where they'll just stay in place even if you're in the air mid-leap for those characters that use, leaps to clear the wave.
Yep. Can we hide the game screen while I switch us to the next section? And Alex, you want to set us up for the next one?
Yeah, so one of the other really big features that we're going to have in Closed Alpha 1 is God progression, God mastery, right? So when you're playing a game, it's always great to feel like you have something to play for, right? And one of my first
they're going to respond more like Smite 1 minions now, more predictable and less
that's like
bounced
my goal.
around.
And
we like learn me and get every
God mastery level 10. Yeah. So we know that having something to grind for and to see you're making progress as you're playing the game is really important. So we wanted to get that system in for 24/7 alpha. But we know that the way that mastery works in Smite 1 has a lot of things that are really good about it and a lot of things that are kind of like, so one of the things that's really great about Smite 1 is that it's this endless, keep getting stars. You can always make more progress and show how devoted you are to your god, right? One thing that's bad is that you really don't get anything for mastering your god other than numbies going up, right? You get the ability to purchase 3 mastery skins. That is what you get.
Which nobody ever uses.
Level 1, Master Level 5, Master Level 10, which is not really great.
Nobody ever uses them.
With Smite 2, we wanted to look at that progression and how can we make that feel more rewarding.
Nobody uses the gold or legendary
rewards,
skins all that much.
Interesting rewards, and make it
that's what I mean.
Kind of a fun experience.
That's what I mean,
as you go from
exactly.
1 to 10 with each god. So because of that, we've introduced Ascension Passes, which if you have bought a Ultimate, or what's the mid-level one called? Deluxe Founders Edition. You've already purchased some of these, so hopefully you're excited about what you see here. But yeah, so basically as you're playing each god, you'll progress along kind of like a mini battle pass track as you gain worshippers, just like you're mastering your god in Smite 1, but you'll be able to see it better. And you'll unlock new rewards, including a lot of new kinds of rewards, which are really exciting and lets you personalize
Is it going to show it?
Your representation of your character a lot more than you could in Smite 1. So I think that's a decent little spiel before we go to the screen. Anything that I should talk about before we see the screen?
I don't think so. I mean,
okay.
we'll look at the screen and you can go ahead and keep walking us through whatever you'd like to.
Okay.
I've got it pulled up right now.
Let's look at the screen. Okay, so
there we go.
This is the screen. As you'll notice, there are both free and paid rewards on the track at different levels. One thing to call out right away is that we've rebalanced the way that you progress through this, where it's going to take the same amount of worshippers to get from mastery level 0 to mastery level 10, but you're going to get to mastery level 5 more quickly. So you'll get the first 5 tiers of rewards much more quickly. Now, if we can go to the free reward for level 1, you're going to get the clap emote for free now as part of just leveling up your god.
And
if you go to level 7, I'll come back to that in a second.
Okay.
If you go to level 7, you're going to get the wave emote for free just for leveling up your god. And keep in mind, you also just get the voice pack for every god just free by default in Smite 1, so you don't have to buy those ever.
Right.
Now, at the bottom, you also note there's like times 10 diamonds. Diamonds are the new premium currency in Smite 2. So what we had gems in Smite 1, in Smite 2 we have diamonds. So you're going to earn, as you play through, I believe the number is 225 diamonds on the free track.
That's a lot of diamonds.
That's a lot of diamonds
just playing
for playing
Smite
a god
free.
for free. And then on the paid track at level 10, you will also get 225 diamonds. That's spoiler on the Radiant skin. So you'll get 450 diamonds just by playing through this. If you get to level 10 with your legacy gems, that's enough to basically go infinite if you buy one of them for free. But you'd still be using legacy gems, right?
You get diamonds
the other thing,
back,
just because I'm in the
though.
pricing right now, and everybody's had because this leaked, because Rally here, a little bit of this leaked at least, because Rally here posted a blog.
Teased, you mean?
Teased, whatever. Unintentional tease, I think is the best way to say it.
You get half of these back.
So you see that this is showing that it costs 450 diamonds and 450 legacy gems. If you didn't have legacy gems, it would be 900 diamonds for this. And this is the way almost every purchase in Smite 2 will work and will look for you. If you have legacy gems, it will be half price. Half of the price will be legacy gems. Half of the price will be diamonds. There are also going to be certain skins that we are porting from Smite 1. I think it's only going to be one in this closed alpha patch because we decided to give the other one away free as a Twitch drop. Spoilers.
Oh, hell yeah.
But
Twitch drops
that
for
you will
Smite
be
2
able to
chat.
spend 100% legacy gems on. So you're going to be able to get stuff just with your legacy gems. Don't worry about it. We're going to be
influencing people to come watch Smite 2.
Smite 1 classic skins that you can get for legacy gems. So you need both 450 diamonds and 450 legacy gems, or 900 diamonds. Now, the question in everybody's mind, because you're used to Smite 1 currency pricing, well, how much is a diamond?
Yeah.
So the currency in Smite 2 diamonds works a little bit differently than Smite 1 because Smite 1 had some issues. The currency value scales really hard in Smite 1, harder than any other game, where it's a dumb idea to not buy the $100 pack. And no offense to people who have not bought who've bought cheaper packs. I've bought cheaper packs myself before I started working here. But the exchange rate is just so much better if you buy the $100 pack that it feels bad when you're like, oh, I'll just drop $8 or whatever and get 400 gems. So we wanted to flatten out the currency curve across from $5 to the $100 pack. So it's less of a bad idea to buy a smaller pack. And by doing that, we also just kind of had to jumble the numbers around a little bit. So the two price points that I've memorized in my head, which I will share with you today. So for $10, you will get 1,300 diamonds. For $100, you will get 16,000 diamonds. So the very rough way of thinking about it, since it's $100 was 8,000 gems, it's 16,000 diamonds. So it's kind of twice as much, but it's a bigger difference for smaller prices because $8 was 400 gems and it's, and $10 is 1,300 diamonds. So the prices should be much more accessible without needing to spend a lot of your money to get to.
Yeah.
The other thing to keep in mind is that if you buy any Founders Pack, your legacy gems are doubled. So we aren't trying to devalue your currency by changing the prices like this. You're getting as close to one-to-one value.
We don't
as
know
we can
skin
do.
prices yet.
And you also we're also giving you all of your free gems that you got for daily login bonuses in Smite 1.
Technically, you could buy 3 Ascension passes if you have legacy gems for
I really wanted to get into
$10.
I know that the first thing everybody's
because
brain
it's
goes to is, what's this
$450.
gonna cost me, right? And
450 and 450, which would be $13.50, so it would be about $10. You could get 3 Ascension passes, but then also get 10, 30, 60, 100,
still cheaper than a lot of things.
120, 225 diamonds
competitively,
back.
The fact that you can go
by
infinite on
completing
these
it.
with just legacy
right?
gems is
so he
pretty
said
good.
$10
back
was
to the actual contents of this, because I'm sorry,
1,300
I went off on
diamonds.
this
So you can buy
tangent that I
3
was supposed to go
Ascension
off on later.
passes, but then also get
So,
225
what else do you
diamonds
get?
back
When you
per
buy in,
Ascension pass.
If you buy
So technically,
an
Ascension
pass,
passes with legacy gems is
on
only
the
like a
break,
couple bucks.
You get
it's actually a
the
pretty great
shadow
deal.
Skin. You get. Can you go back to the full screen on the?
It's a pretty fair deal.
Production. Can you go back to full screen on the? Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So you get the shadow skin, which is pretty sweet. I think kind of inspired by the shadow skins that we used to do for clans in Smite 1. You get a epic tracker. So these are really cool, and you get a master emote. So I'll talk about the master emote first, actually, because now.
Good tracker.
Oh, okay. We'll talk about the tracker. Fine. So
You can talk about whichever one you want, Alex. I'm sorry. I just like this tracker too much to not show it.
as you do things in Smite 2, we are going to track them, and you can show them on your loading card
Spoof.
to everybody. So,
Hell yeah.
As an example, you're spoiling. You're spoiling.
God Mastery
you can
Ascension
say,
passes.
Okay, I'm showing how many times I got an enemy to max stacks of Storm's Edge ever in playing the game, and how many God kills
You
I
can
have
choose
gotten
which
on,
trackers you want on
Susanoo.
your
So
on your
people
frame.
Can see your
You can choose
progress
if
and
you
your
want,
stats.
like you
And
can
these will
choose
start
what you
tracking
have.
before you unlock
All
the tracker,
customizable.
so
You
it's
can
not
have
like you gotta
none,
rush to
or you
get
can
the
have
tracker unlocked
any
and
that
have
you
to
want.
lose these things. And each god has
And Ascension passes are
two
basically,
really kind of, like,
if you have
custom
legacy
things related to their
gems,
play style. So, like,
they're basically
Ares, I
like
know, has, like, a
$3
triple
or
chains
$4
one,
per
and
Ascension
a god
pass,
stunned with
and you
no
get
escape,
all
with their
that stuff
ultimate.
there.
And Susanoo has stacks on stacks, which is gods that you get to max stacks of his passive, and distance dash, which is distance that you have traveled. So how many miles have you gone in your life while you've been playing Susanoo using your
So
jet stream and
so for the
using
people
your,
who missed it,
your
$10
storm
gets you
cosmos, I think is
1,300
what
gems,
really.
or $100 gets you
And each
16,000
god has
gems.
different ones. They're really kind of interesting, and you can show off
Ascension
your own,
packs per god
your own
are
stats,
900
which I think is
gems,
really
or
kind of
half,
cool.
which is 450
And
if you have
then
legacy gems.
You also get this
450
mastery
diamonds,
emote.
450
So the
legacy
mastery
gems.
emote, just kind of like VXG, or
And then
one
you
of
get
those
225
other inputs
diamonds
you can do.
back by
You put
completing
in,
it.
VGS input.
So
and
you could
will
buy
be able to
3
show
of these
everybody in your,
with
in your
$10
match, look at
if
me,
you have legacy gems.
I'm mastery level 10 with
While
30
getting
diamonds.
225
Or
back
30
per
stars, sorry.
Ascension pass.
So you can flex on people in game and show off your mastery level in game once you have an Ascension pass.
Yep, that's right. So when you buy Ascension, you immediately get these 3 rewards, and it'll unlock all these possible future rewards. Or if you've already gotten to max level, you'll get them all immediately. You will also get this little number down here.
Yes, you will also get a 25% worshiper boost.
For this god.
For this god.
Forever.
Forever. Yes.
Yep.
So we wanted to make sure that it wasn't so much that it made like
It's
the grind feel
basically
meaningless, but just a little bit
$4
extra
or
boost,
$3
we thought felt right.
There's
if
no
you have
boosters
legacy
in Smite
gems.
2 at this point. There's
$3
no boosters, there's no
for
account
upwards
boosters,
of
so,
like
this
3
is the way
skins, 4 skins,
to
recolors, a
effectively
boost
get those.
forever.
And we also thought that
A unlockable, customizable. It's for its value. It's very good.
Make sure that it's a little bit.
It's a good marketing idea for them because it's worth the buy,
that's the summary for
and it's
when you
worth
buy
it for the consumer
okay,
for
so
how much you
level 1,
get.
you get the clap.
Let's do like all the free rewards.
Okay. Okay. So level 1, you get the clap. Level 10 diamonds. Level
Good phrasing there, Alex.
Yes, thank you.
We've been talking to them about this for
level
about
3,
6
you get
months
a
now on
god
what we'd
assist
want to see.
tracker, And this is every god gets a god assist tracker here, and 20 diamonds. Level 5, you get the Onyx skin free.
You can
and
get
30
these diamonds.
And
Keep in
remember,
mind,
we've made it a lot.
you can
easier
get
to
these diamonds
from
for
0 to
free.
5
Do you
than it
see
was
how,
in Smite
like,
1. I think you said it was about
you can
about as hard
earn
as it was
enough
get
to
to
almost
level
pay for
3 in
this.
Smite 1?
If
yeah,
you
getting
don't
to
buy
level 1
this,
and calling
you can
that
get
master
this
just
for
kinda felt
free.
weird and, like, showing
At
off
level
a skin
1,
'cause
level
you got a
3,
god to level 1,
level
it's like,
5, level
congrats,
7,
man.
level
Like,
9, and level
so
10. You
what
can
made it a
get
little steeper, a
all
little
of
harder,
these
like, this is where you
diamonds
can actually
to
start
almost
showing off
help
that you
pay for
actually
the
got some
Ascension
mastery
pack.
on the god.
If
This
that
felt a
makes
lot more
sense.
fair. We tuned
So
it
if
a
you
little
don't
bit
want
to
Kepri's
just
Ascension
ease
Pass,
the
but you
curve
just give
here,
them to
but
rank
yeah.
10, you're getting
Now you have to get to
225
level 5 before you can actually start swagging on this god.
Yep. And then,
diamonds,
rank
so
7,
they could
get
then be like,
your
oh,
wave
it pretty
and
much paid for
40
itself
diamonds.
almost.
At rank 9,
Not
you
really,
will get
not
the
really
god
almost paid for
kills
itself, but you know what I'm
tracker
saying.
And 50 diamonds. And at rank 10, you will get your god mastery badge and 75 diamonds.
Kinda,
And
Gemma,
these
yeah.
rewards are these free
Kinda.
rewards are very. The system here is pretty much the same for all the gods, right? So you're going to get the same emotes at the same level and the same gems for all of the gods. They're not radically different. The cosmetics are tuned to better fit the character, but there's no like giant mix-up in these. So at any if you are wanting to go grind Anubis really hard when you get into Smite 2, it's going to be the same types of rewards, the same levels. It's going to be the same gem kickbacks at the same levels. This, if you see someone sporting this badge, it means they're
not doing any god ports or mode changes until a couple weeks from now.
It's very
where there'll be like the last big update before this. This is like the art changes, the ascension passes, the UI changes, the store changes.
But you can show
consumables
like,
are back,
badges and some of these other things that we'll show you on other gods. So
consumables are back, starter items are back, active items are back.
So then in the paid rewards,
art changes are a lot more like vibrant.
Another tracker.
All these things as soon as you buy. I mean,
a lot of things change so gods don't feel slow and clunky. They explained.
Tracker. At level 4, you get one of the more custom trackers that's different for each god. At level 5, you will get the opal skin, which this skin I think looks the most different from god to god. And on some gods it looks really awesome. On other gods, I still think it looks awesome, but it looks very different, right?
It's a little darker and like sleeker on this one.
It's a lot,
purple and pink and sparkly on some other characters.
Yeah, on some gods you really can feel like the opalescence to it, and on other gods it's more like just kind of the color scheme. But it's kind of a neat new theme we're experimenting. And then
every skin has been tested to hide these crazy effects and make sure the beads material shows up. By the way,
yeah, and then you also, sorry, keep going to the next one.
We're really excited about these.
Yeah, so these are awesome. So global emotes are just like way cooler than they were on Smite 1. And we have this, gotta go
fucking
fast.
hate data mining.
Naruto run.
Here. Yeah.
I genuinely
Little
fucking
Naruto.
hate data mining. I don't like it. It's cringe.
And each god has
They're just making
their
money
own
off releasing
custom
stuff
kind of
without
global
doing
emote
it
here that
through.
you can unlock. And then those can be
I don't
used
like it.
across any god once they are unlocked.
Cringe.
We really leaned into the memes for these. Yeah.
Yeah.
We won't show them all today, but
Almost too hard sometimes, but
Yes.
that's the right way to do it, I think.
And then at level 8, you will get a title related to that god. Most of these are related to the god's actual title.
Sometimes shortened a little bit for character length, but
Yes. And then at mastery level 10, you will get the radiant skin.
It's so good.
Along with card effects, which are really cool.
So good.
It's kind of like a loading frame.
and a big
but
batch of diamonds.
It's this, and 225 diamonds.
Oh, yeah,
So, this really neat.
So you get 200. You get
it's not like- it's kind of like a
500
loading frame, but
diamonds.
It's all driven through FX.
If you
And
buy
it
it,
just
and you
looks
get
so smooth and so
225 for
slick.
completing
Like,
the free
Ares one in
part of
particular
it.
with, there's like chains that are leading through it. Like they're very cool. So
They're basically
hopefully
doing it almost like
people,
Fortnite, where you can almost
really
earn back
like
your
these and are
entire
excited about the
Ascension Pass or Battle
opportunity to,
Pass
really kind
by
of
paying
customize
for
a
it
loadout
and
for
then
your
playing the
favorite god
game.
and show off.
So the Ascension
with
Passes
your
aren't
personal
even
style.
really like make
Yeah, I
us
talked
money.
about it a
It's
little
get
bit
on the game
earlier,
and
but
play
just
it
to reiterate,
to
each
make all of
your
your stuff back.
loadouts are unique
and then buy
per
another one
god.
and play more.
So I can set up whatever
It's incentivized to get you to play,
badges, trackers,
not
title,
just to
frame
buy,
I want for Susano,
which is
and
huge
it'll
for Smite.
save. But then when I switch gods, so production, if you want to hide my cam just real quick while I switch gods to avoid any spoilers.
No spoilers.
It doesn't expire.
While I was
Yes.
doing that, I'll mention.
You can toggle back in.
There is also a badge here. See, this is the Ares.
There's,
oh, geez, it
we've
looks
got
so
a couple of things we're still working through some bugs. So like I do have a second tracker here equipped, but it's like hiding sometimes when it's not supposed to. But now when I play Ares, so the card art behind will always update to the skin you're playing and the god load, and it'll match the loadout. So you set your loadout for each god, then you play any god. It'll pick that god's loadout and then update the card art to that skin. And yeah, as we already mentioned, like these will be updated to the new illustrated card art, not the renders eventually as well. Like this is all going to use the same art there. It's just we don't have that art yet.
Yep. And one other thing I will mention is that there is, we mentioned this when we announced Divine Legacy, but there is a badge that you will be able to equip that shows off your Smite 1 mastery level on that god.
Yep.
I don't think it's working in PTS today.
Don't think
So all the
I
people
have
that
it
like
on
wanted to
one god,
show
but I
off
have-
the
I
fact
have
like,
a
oh, all my
one-star,
stars are
two-star
gone, they're
Ares
gonna
in
have
Smite.
something that's gonna show
so
off.
It just looks exactly
Smite
like
1
the Smite
progress.
1 mastery area with the Roman numeral and the stars.
Just more
so we wanted
things
let you
to
kind of pay
show
homage
off
to the time
your
and, effort that you put into Smite
efficiency
1
on
and
the
your
character, the
accomplishments
time you've put into the game,
and,
stuff. If you
and,
want to, or you can
be
have
able to flex
nothing.
a little bit. So
Yeah, this is where a lot of your Divine Mastery stuff is going to be. Like you'll
Yep.
be able to see if you were a Smite 1 beta beta tester. We have those avatars, the Smite 1 Worlds.
So you can put
Twitch
that on
drop,
your stuff.
The various
All
tier 5s, if you
customizable.
collected them,
More
and
stuff to
ranked skins, if you
customize, which
collected
means
them,
more stuff to
the,
show off
various
and more
Smite
stuff
season,
if you want
ranked
to.
achievements,
And all
playing enough,
toggleable. If you don't want to
matches
show
for
any
those
stats
to get
because they're
them,
the kids
because
who
here's
like
the
don't
tier
like
5
that.
ones. So you can really,
You don't have to put
even though
anything.
you're in Smite 2, you can still show off a lot of this unique things, and these will not be attainable any other way than owning these assets in Smite 1.
Yep. So through the Divine Legacy, if you look at that screen in Smite 1, it explains how you get all this stuff and what your progress is. So definitely it's cool and we're checking out.
I think that's everything.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Like outside of like, we're gonna show you. Obviously, you'll be able to see whoever's in the flash tests and stuff. We'll probably start.
Those are
posting
global
these
emotes
'cause
per
the
god.
The memes are really
like
good.
this.
Global
Nice.
emotes
Taking
per
a look at
god.
Some of these other skins and
Different
you know,
per
I think
god.
they
Like
look
so, like
really
whatever
cool.
god you're playing, you can have. Oh god,
But
it's so
yeah,
good.
that is the system.
Yeah,
It's
I
so
will
good.
say, one.
Show
just
the
kinda
show
last
the
thing
show
since we're
the
talking about
show
Divine Legacy.
show the bottom right one. Show
You
it,
know,
please.
There's the skins that are
Please
in
show
Divine
Radiant
Legacy,
Ares, it's
as
so
well, that are
good.
kind of cross gens, or not even cross gen, but you just get in Smite 2 for completing
No!
Divine Legacy stuff.
Oh, it's
You
so
know,
good.
We're rolling those out kind of as
Oh, it's
quickly
so
as we
good.
can while staying focused on making a great game.
It looks so cool.
You should get those relatively quickly for most gods after they are released, but probably not in the same update that a god releases. So just to set expectations, because I don't want people to be like, well, I unlocked this thing. It's like, you're going to get it. We're going to do it. We're working on them all, but sometimes it's better for us to ship those a little bit after the god releases to make sure that everything's fine with the god. We don't have to go back and redo stuff on the skin when we get that in.
Yeah, there's a lot more to show.
Chat,
off.
I just got confirmation. If you guys are looking to upgrade your founders pack or blah 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 blah, he said not on Nexus, but you can do it from Steam. You can go to Steam and you can upgrade to whatever you want. If you want to go buy the $99 founders to get all those Ascension packs, you can't do it through Nexus though.
That the community.
They have not talked about the ranked system. They're not going to talk about the ranked system probably until 2 weeks from now when they do like the rest of the update.
I had chat was spamming me during the loadout view of card art change.
Console gamers?
Like, you must
That
be
I'm not
late,
sure.
Yes, we already talked about that.
Yeah, we are going back to illustrated card arts, but we're updating them all to be even.
But
cooler.
these look so awesome, by the way, and you can display them on the loading frame, and when you load into the match, you can mix
Card
and match them with
FX,
any
yep.
god,
Is
any
that
style.
Cuckoos?
I think so.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good.
Each of them are, themed around a god.
And you
really
unlock
specifically,
those
so,
per
I'm
character,
supposed to
but you
demo
can
some of
use
these,
them
but-
on other
Yeah,
characters,
they're
right?
really cool. All right, so
You
the things
unlock
we
one
talked
that's
about
like
today were
the
illustrated
Ares
card art
chains, but you can
returns,
put it on a different card
environmental
art.
overhaul for style and fantasy, performance updates, item store changes including starter items returned, consumables returned, active item 3 slotting, starter upgrades, 20 plus of the most popular Smite 1 items, roughly 2 to 3 per roll returning, adding 2 more new relics, simplified component building, and simplified component building actually required us to like pretty much rebalance the entire item store. So you probably won't get like change list patch notes for plus or minus strength or whatever because everything had to be rebalanced. HUD, clarity, and aesthetics along with the new ability screen or K screen as PC players are used to calling it, simplified damage typing for gods, single damage type output as well as gods being specified into 100% strength, 100% int, or hybrid scaling types. Big polish passes on all of the previous alpha gods, which we exampled through Susanoo, but many other gods are doing similar changes. And we also are doing the visual effects for clarity pass and impact, the audio clarity and revert for Smite 1 iconic sounds, and game design updates regarding minion knockback AI and grouping to match Smite 1 and ascension passes. So
Yeah, it's a lot.
yeah.
A lot of stuff. Looking at chat, it seems like people are generally excited about stuff, which is great to see. I will say, I see a couple people asking about favor. Since I talked about other currency, I guess I should talk about favor a little bit too.
Yeah, why not?
So we are not going to have a free grind currency, favor equivalent at the beginning of Smite 2. Right now, we're focused on making, the core game, we're making it great. There's not a lot to actually spend that currency on if you were to grind it out.
Many ways to earn free diamonds, though.
There are many ways to earn
those
free
will have
diamonds.
value forever.
Yes, and you will be getting daily. There's an early version of daily login.
That's gonna make people
rewards that
mad.
will be
There's
in
no
Full
point in
Top One
having
that will give
favor.
free diamonds. There's going to be other ways to get them.
This
Mastering
is
any
more
god.
important,
Mastering any
and
god
what
will
they're
give you
what they're
diamonds.
explaining is like
So there will be
anything
ways
you
to
can
get
earn in
diamonds,
Smite
but we
2
don't
is
have
going
this,
to have a
like, kind of
value.
favor
We're not going to do
equivalent currency
favor
yet.
to try
We're
and find.
expecting that something like that will be
Yeah.
added when we get
I would
closer
rather have
free
ways to
play,
earn diamonds, which will
because
always
we kind of
have
this bigger
value
plan
on
for a
new
system that we're not really
content.
ready to talk about yet,
Favor
but,
is pointless.
is
It's
tied into
there's
that.
there's
So
genuinely no
hopefully
purpose
that will
to
be
favor.
exciting when we get there, but for now it's not there. The question that's going through most people's mindset is,
Legacy
well,
gems
if I
for
get in with
spending
the free
money,
code, then how do
diamonds
I
for either
unlock
spending
gods?
money or doing things in the
What we're
game,
gonna be
getting that
doing,
to trade
the
for
short
new
term
products
is
that
all
we don't need
gods,
favor. I don't think we need
will
it.
be on free rotation so that you can play them.
Oh, no, there will
except
be
for the
people
gods
mad
in the
no matter
most
what, yeah.
recent patch, which will be reserved for God Pack holders or Founders Edition owners.
Founders owners.
Yeah. So
Because you can't buy the god individually even at this point, right? It's Founders Pack or
yes, yeah, it's just
or free rotation.
Yes. So during this early alpha, we want people to have access to a lot of the gods so that we can see performance and not be kind of railroaded through that early progression.
Feedback,
Yeah, we want the feedback. So we thought it was better. Just they're all unlocked for everybody except for the most recent gods. And if you want to play the most recent gods, you can either get one of the Founders Editions, which we still think are a pretty great value.
And we will be doing upgrading Founders Editions. Will that be ready for this update?
Yes, upgrading Founders Editions will be available in Closed Alpha 1. There's
a lot of people asking.
There's even an in-game UI that shows how to do that. So if you were excited by what you saw about the Ascension Passes, hopefully we think they're pretty cool, and you want to upgrade to get more of the Ascension Passes.
Ascension passes are
there'll be
great.
a way to do that.
Genuinely
From
great.
A level
Anybody
to
who
B
is
level.
complaining about them, they're just mad to be mad. It's genuinely
I had
great.
to switch clients because there was a bug, but if we want to show on screen
For the
really
value and how
quick,
much they cost you and how much you get
it'll be
back.
safe to show. There is a simplified
nice.
profile
Yep.
section here, and you can choose any badge to be your avatar. So we're not going to have two different cosmetics for something that's essentially the same thing. So if you have Archon Thanatos, from Smite 1, which is hard to get, you can set Archon Thanatos as your avatar.
Yep.
And it just looks sick. I mean, I'm
Yep.
a big Subic fan. Subic was my first played god in Smite 1.
Really?
First level. Yep.
All
first mastered. He was all
continued
of closed beta, I only
ways-
played Subic pretty much.
All continued
supported
ways
for my
to
teammates.
show stuff from
And,
Smite 1.
Yeah, so I've equipped him here. There's also some other things here. I'm not going to demo all this now because I don't want to accidentally click on something. I've already done plenty of accidental spoilers today, but
Yeah, and
that's okay.
This is
The earliest version of this.
Earliest version of
Really
this screen.
early. We
I think
plan
that
to expand the profile a lot.
Yeah.
This is just the necessary pieces. So match history, checking up on your rank, confirming your daily login process, and there is a couple of cosmetics that are account level, not god level, that'll be handled here. Yeah.
And some
I don't think there is an Amaterasu badge in Smite 2 yet.
I don't know. Yeah, you got to work on that. One person just
sure.
asked, Smite 1 will stay up when Smite 2 releases, right? Yes, Smite 1 is not going anywhere. We know that Smite 2, hopefully you can see with this update, we've made a lot of improvements. We're listening to you guys. We're doing everything we can to make this game great, but we know that we still have a ways to go, right? And we think it's important that you guys have the option to keep playing Smite 1, to keep accessing all your stuff there. Or if you're really into what we're doing with Smite 2 and you want to jump over, then cool. We're happy to have you. So Smite 1's not going anywhere. We are, we're hoping that over time, more and more people decide they want to move to Smite 2 because we're doing the right things and it's just a better game, because that's the goal. We just want to make a better game than Smite 1. But yeah, Smite 1's going to be there. And especially if you're stuck on an older gen console and can't play Smite 2, we're happy to have you keep playing Smite 1 for as long as you're having fun and, slamming the Qs in the battleground of the gods.
Absolutely.
So.
All right, gentlemen. Well, that wraps it up for us today. Thanks so much for taking out the time. 24/7 Alpha, August 27th.
August 27th. Yeah, big day for us. And it's a big day, but it's the next step.
Yes.
Right? Game's not done. Game's not shipped. It's still alpha.
It's not finished.
Yeah, it's not finished. We're not like, okay, guys, we got it here. Just as we have been through these alpha weekends, we want your feedback. We want to understand what we need to work on for the next update, and we're just going to keep grinding, and we're going to make this game great. And we're really excited about it. I'm stoked with how far the game's come since. If you look back at the footage from the first alpha weekend to now, I think that everybody can see we've come a long way. There's things that we wish we could have gotten done sooner. There's things that we wish everybody wants more gods, everybody wants more items, everybody wants more and more and more, right? And we're going to get there. We're going to keep grinding it out, and hopefully, everybody just enjoys what we can present now, and sees the future and is along for the ride. So,
well, everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. We'll be back in a couple of weeks for the full update show for Closed Alpha 1, where we'll have more details on god balance, item balance, game mode balance. We'll have the full reveal of Mordred there. We'll have written patch notes on the website. We're going to be talking about ranked on that show. There's just so much
Oh
coming
boy.
in this update.
Dude, I
More
was
stuff.
looking at Mordred's
This is only about half of what I
today.
was telling you guys
I was
to be
like,
excited
how are
about.
we gonna get these to fit on that
Genuinely,
screen?
this
He
is
does
only
so
about
much
half.
stuff. Like, he's interesting character.
When I was talking about all the things they're going to
Yeah, I
show,
read the
I didn't know they were
close
only
article.
going to
He
do
does have
this
to keep up
amount.
with
This is still
Arthur,
dope,
yes.
but there's
If you haven't
about
read the closer look
half
blog on
more
Mordred,
stuff
head
that's
over to
really good.
smite2.com and check out the news page there for some early
What up,
info on
Bobicles?
Mordred before full reveal. But we're going to be starting flash tests, like AJ said earlier.
This
in
is very
a little bit,
promising,
so
Steelix,
if you're
yeah.
interested in participating in those, head to our official Discord. But outside of that, thanks so much for tuning in with us and joining us. We'll see you on the next time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Made in Georgia.